This is an overview on different ways of submitting form data and returning output to the person on the other side that's using the web browser. And the person's called usually the user. That's the technical term for it. There are three main ways of approaching it, and the first way that I learned is I'll just refer to it as a processing or an action page. With a header redirect. And what that means is that you have a page that renders the form. We'll just call it render.php. This will display the form, and you'll click a submit button on that form, and it will do a post, an HTTP post, to a second page that will perform the action. And this is not PHP specific, so I'll just call it render and action. And the action page will take the form data, do whatever processing it needs to do. For example, this could be a comment form where you leave a comment. You want to save the comment, so it'll go to the action page to save it in a database. After it's finished doing that, the next thing for it to do is to do what's called a header redirect, which instructs their web browser to go back to the render page. So 2 pages are involved. And another thing I should mention is just the act of going from one page to another page and then back. What happens is with web pages is that they're referred to as being stateless. And by stateless, I mean it does not retain state or memory. It's forgetful. The only if I go from render to action to do the database inserts, the only information that I'm aware of is what was submitted to me in this post. When I go from action back to the render page and I do this redirect, that data doesn't come back to the render page, so I've lost what they typed in on the form. And what's generally involved is that you have to establish what's called a session. And that usually takes form of a web browser cookie that's put on the client's web browser so you can track them as they navigate around on your website. A second way of doing this is what's referred to as a Postback. And this involves one page. Call this render. And there's a form on it. And when you submit the form, it will actually do a post back to itself. And by post, I mean it's submitting the form data back to itself. And on the render page, you would also do the action. So you'll need to figure out, okay, I'm visiting this page for the very first time. And then you'd also need to distinguish between I'm submitting this form with data on it, and then I need to do whatever action that I need to do. The third way of going about doing this, and this is relatively a new way, I didn't really start hearing about it until about 2007, and it's called, it's referred to as AJAX, which stands for Asynchronous JavaScript Execution. And it kind of goes back to the first way where you have two pages. By the first way, I mean this part. So you would have a render page. You also have an action page. But what actually happens, the interesting thing is with this Ajax technique, is that the person, when they click on this, when the form is rendered, they fill in their data and they click on the submit button, they actually are still on this page. They never leave to go to this page. And a JavaScript request is sent to this page. But the person or the user is actually still on the render page. They never officially go to this action page through this Ajax technique. And the action page would return data back to the render page, which is nice because you don't have to, in either of these two steps, is that if once I visit the render page again, I have to redraw the form and repopulate the form with the data that they posted. With this way, you don't have to do that because they've never left this page, and so the content that they entered in on their form is still there. And two very popular, well, one very popular library, the other one I don't know what happened to it. One popular library is Ajax library is called jQuery. The one before that, it was that you don't really hear much anymore. This is the first one I heard about. It's called Prototype. But that seems to have gone to the wayside. And jQuery seems to be the predominant one. And the query doesn't refer to anything database related. It's just, I think it's a reference to, it's a JavaScript library that actually queries HTML document data. And you can do more stuff than just Ajax with it, but it's a very popular term nowadays. Another thing I should mention is that the action page in the Ajax situation, it doesn't have to return back HTML data. It can return back other forms of data, something called XML. Another type is another one called JSON. I know I'm throwing out all the technical jargon right now. You can also get it to return JavaScript, but that's kind of generally not done anymore. But yeah, that's it. Those are the three main types out there that I can think of on how to submit form data and return a response to the user on the other side of the web browser. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching.